What have the winning lineups in 2025 looked like so far? That is going to be the theme of today's DFS draft party here, the Jam, on the Fantasy Life YouTube channel. I'm Pete Overzet. We are going to be drafting Battle Royale teams on Underdog for the next hour with a fun twist. We got my randomizer wheel. We will be busting that out to inform how I attack some of these early drafts. And I'm excited for today. Normally, these are like my true first look drafts in the Battle Royale streets for the week. I like, back weighting my drafts. But what I've found is I'm just too busy to get all of my drafts in on Saturday and Sunday. I've been cramming to get drafts in. I feel like I've been getting sloppy on Sunday mornings with some of my late drafts. And I said, you know what? We're going to start a little earlier this week. So I have about 25 BR drafts under my belt. Feel like I have a good grasp on this slate. And I even got the column up on on Fantasy Life early for this week. And we made it exclusively Underdog strategy. So if you guys have been checking out that article, it's been a blend of DraftKings and Underdog advice. This week we went Underdog exclusive. So I'm feeling dialed in for this week 6 slate on Underdog and excited to talk it through with you guys today and get some drafts going. GM, what is up, Pat? So the theme I was thinking that would be fun for the randomizer wheel this week is because I looked at what characteristics the winning teams in the large field battle royale contests have had this year. And, I give the caveat, you never want to be overfitting too much what has happened in a 5-week sample. But I always like looking at winning lineups because we can start to see kind of some themes, some characteristics of them. And the goal is never to replicate exactly what they've done, but to look at some of the levers they're pulling. When you are competing in a contest like the Battle Royale that has tens of thousands of entries in it, you're going to have to get unique somewhere. You're going to have to find some levers to pull to make sure that your lineup doesn't look like everybody else's. And this week we do have another large battle royale, 64,000 entrants here. And let me actually share my window so I can tab back and forth between a few of these things as I talk about it. There we go. It's been nice to see this contest stay so big. We still have that $50,000 to first place prize, which is awesome. And let me check this out here. What is up, Ashton? GM. So yeah, I went through the lineups through the first 5 weeks, and I was trying to kind of just find some of the, unique characteristics that they had. So I'll do a quick rundown of these, and then we can talk about some of the themes, takeaways. And then I've been kind of teasing the wheel this week. I have the various levers, the uniqueness levers, or the type of constructions that these winners have utilized. I've put them all on the wheel so we can try to, pull some of the similar levers. So week 1 was a low-owned skinny stack. It was a 6% Daniel Jones to a 1.35% Michael Pittman Jr. It also had a low-owned mini correlation. Bijan Robinson wasn't low-owned, but Emeka Egbuka, that debut week for him, he was at 25%. So this has been by far the most unique lineup we've seen win with 3 players under 25%. Week 2, the really only notable characteristic was a low-owned skinny stack. Amon-Ra St. Brown was a popular pick, but Jared Goff was his quarterback at 15%. So a lot of people were taking Amon-Ra, but not stacking him with Jared Goff. Week 3, we had a naked quarterback with a bringback. So Jalen Hurts, but no Eagles pass catchers, but they were playing the Rams. And the winner, which was Fantasy Grinder, brought it back with Devontae Adams. And then the other part of this is it had a low-owned tight end. Hunter Henry was only 5%. This is when Henry went off for a couple of touchdowns. Week 4, we saw another naked quarterback. So back-to-back weeks, it was Patrick Mahomes. No Chiefs pass catchers included here. It did have a mini correlation. The Rams were playing the Colts, and there was Puka Nacua versus Tyler Warren. And then it had a low-owned-ish running back. Genti wasn't, sub 30%, but he was sub 50% at 48%, which is still, I think, notable there, just not having to compete against a player who's on every single roster, selected in every single draft of the contest. And then week 5, most recently, we saw similar to the week 2 where you had a low-owned skinny stack. It was a low-owned skinny stack with Baker Mayfield to Emeka Egbuka. So Emeka Egbuka taken in every draft, but Baker Mayfield wasn't, 17%. And then a secondary team stack. This is the first time this year we've seen this pop up, Javonte Williams and Jake Ferguson. So a few of the takeaways that I would have from this stuff, uniqueness matters. Every single winning team had at least one piece that was less than 50% owned. You generally don't want to be selecting 6 players who are all selected in every draft. It's just really hard to get to first place when you do that. The second, of course, with the naked quarterbacks, don't always force a quarterback stack because these quarterbacks can spread the ball around, which is the case with the Mahomes in week 4 there, or because they score rushing TDs, which is what Hurts did in week 3. It isn't always necessary to stack. And then finally, the secondary correlations are helpful. 4 of the 5 lineups so far this year had an additional secondary stack, which would be 2 teammates or a mini correlation, 2 players from the same game. So I think seeing how these rosters are taking shape is helpful. And so then I took all of these individual elements and I put them on the wheel here. Naked quarterback with no bring back, naked quarterback with bring back, early wide receiver stacked with low owned quarterback, secondary teammate stack, low-owned RB, mini correlation, low-owned tight end, low-owned skinny stack. So we will attempt to execute at least one of these levers in all of our drafts today and see if we can get a team ourselves at the top of the BR leaderboard. Pat says he's been scrolling too much at wide receiver this season. I hear that. Yeah, it's really hard to figure out the line between how much projection you're willing to sacrifice, how far off the board you're willing to go to get that uniqueness. And I think that's the beauty of these games is you don't often have to go too crazy off the board. All right, so this naked quarterback with no bring back. Naked quarterback with no bring back. So off the top of my head, the 2 I've been doing that would fit this prompt really well is Drake May and Jordan Love. So Drake May faces New Orleans, don't necessarily need or want to force a bring back there. Jordan Love faces Cincinnati. Sure, you can do Jamar Chase, but I don't think you want to force a bring back there either. So I'm going to put these 2 in the queue here. But there's lots of different ways you can do a quarterback with no bring back. I haven't been selecting a lot of Dak Prescott. He's the most expensive quarterback here with an ADP of 14. But I will say, if you are selecting Dak at 14, I do like using him naked. Obviously, he's a good pairing partner with either Ferguson or Pickens. But I think the field's going to do that a ton, right? Almost all of the Dak teams are going to be with Pickens and Ferguson. And if you're paying this price for Dak Prescott, a top 3-round price, you are hoping for a little rushing. You're probably hoping that he's throwing for a good amount of touchdowns. And so I like playing the angle that it's spread around and that it's a naked pairing there because otherwise, a naked utilization of Dak, because otherwise you're just competing against so many rosters that have the same stacks. Ransack likes the Herbert angle again this week. Yeah, I think Herbert's a good QB to do naked conceptually. I personally don't love the spot as much for him this week just because the Chargers O-line is really banged up. In week 5, their right guard, Becton, and their right tackle, Trey Pipkins, I'm pulling this up because Dwayne was writing about it. Both of them are questionable, so let's keep tabs on them. But it is something I'm a little concerned about here. And I can show you in Dwayne's article, his yards per passing yards and yards per attempt have plummeted each week. Started 9.4 yards per attempt in week 1 all the way down to week 5 at 5.7. So not the best spot, but again, I like the naked angle there. Let's go ahead and grab Genty. I've been liking these 2 running back starts here, CMC Genty, which should be a little unique. Maybe I should have done CMC Javonte just because Javonte was the faller there, and CMC Javonte probably won't be paired quite as much. But I think just straight up, I do prefer Genty this week. Yeah, this is another good point about that game, and I can pull up some of the game totals here. I know last week I started the show going through those. It's always helpful to kind of see those totals. Let me change it to over under here. Yeah, Miami and Los Angeles at only 43.5 is a kind of a surprising total there. Dallas, Carolina, 49.5. Seattle, Jacksonville, that one kind of surprises me too at 47. That's like a sneaky nice total. Yeah, the thing though with Miami is we just saw what Carolina was able to do to them on the ground. It is kind of an interesting wrinkle of like, yes, do they go more pass happy without Amari and Hampton? But I'm telling you, I think we're going to see a lot of Hassan Haskins this week. His ADP is pretty low. I wrote him up in my article for this week. I don't think he's someone you want to get crazy on as far as like these scrolls, but if someone scores 2 touchdowns on this team this week, 2 rushing touchdowns, I do really think it's Hassan Haskins. So I start here, Christian McCaffrey, Ashton Genty, Devontae Adams. I do really like Devontae Adams this week. His utilization has been awesome. This is like the best passing matchup in the league here. Let me see. I will go ahead and do Trey McBride at pick 22. He falls a bit here. I know we've been burned over and over by Trey McBride, but he's still going to project well. And I'm going to be doing a good mix of scrolls this week at tight end. You know, down here, the Njoku, the Tungus, the AJ Barner. There's a lot of guys in play down here. But man, Trey McBride at pick 22, I'm going to do it. So to remind ourselves, this is a naked quarterback with no bring back. So I've identified Drake May and Jordan Love as my preferred targets here. Drake May as the QB5, Jordan Love as the QB6. They will probably be in like the 50 to 60% ownership range. So I don't think either of them have a huge advantage there. I don't have any New Orleans. I don't have any Cincinnati. Let's go ahead and grab Drake May on this team. And then I'll get kind of a scroll down that I like here. I'll give you guys a few. So we didn't go Jordan Love. So one option would be to do Romeo Doubs or Matthew Golden. I wrote up Matthew Golden in this Underdog piece that just went up on the site. I'm actually going to drop that in the chat so you guys have this here. But yeah, and I even wrote about Matthew Golden in this morning's newsletter. I do expect a post-bye bump for him. His utilization had gone up every single week before the bye. We know Cincinnati's secondary is pretty bad. And I just think the big plays here are coming from Matthew Golden. But Romeo Doubs also, I think, is very much in the conversation. I mean, he's coming off of a 3-touchdown game here. Let's go ahead and do Golden, though. He's the guy I wrote up and has the lower ADP here at 35.6. I mean, he's going to be sub 10% drafted at this clip. And this is kind of a fun way to do it. You know, I was deciding between Love and May for my naked quarterback. Let's go ahead and grab the wide receiver on the team I didn't select. So here is the team with our prompt being naked quarterback with no bring back. We get Drake May, which is like the perfect no quarterback with bring back, right? Because his pass catchers are so spread out. I know Stephon Diggs is coming on, but he's being drafted highly, top 20 this week. So I'll definitely pair Drake May with Diggs some of the time, but I think I would prefer to have the majority of my Drake May unstacked. And then with New Orleans, there just isn't a lot of attractive stuff to bring back. So he's a good one to fulfill this specific prompt. And then Christian McCaffrey, Genty, just get 2 of those top 10 running backs. Devontae Adams, just a solid pick this week. Trey McBride, always in conversation for the tight end 1. And then get a scroll at wide receiver to help the uniqueness of this lineup. So I like this team here. Let's see what we are going to do for our next draft. All right, here we go. Early wide receiver stacked with a low-owned QB. So this is kind of piggybacking off of the Amon-Ra and Igbukah selections that helped teams win Battle Royale in week 5. Igbukah taken in every draft, but Baker 17%. Amon-Ra taken in every week 2 draft, but Jared Goff 15%. So I'm going to try to see like some good candidates for this. And we'll hop in another one here and see who qualifies for this one. Looking at these, Matthew Stafford's not going to qualify as a low-owned one. He's quarterback 4. With JSN, Darnold would certainly qualify. Darnold way back here at ADP of 35.3. JSN taken in every draft, but not Darnold. Igbukah with Baker. Baker is the QB2, so that doesn't qualify. Pickens with Dak, that doesn't qualify. Jamar Chase with Flacco, that qualifies, but doesn't feel good. Tedaroya McMillan with Bryce Young, that would qualify. That would be a good one there. Diggs with May, I'm not going to say really qualifies. Waddle with Tua probably on the fringe here. That one would qualify. So I would say the 3 we would be aiming for to fulfill this prompt would be Darnold with JSN, Bryce Young with Tedaroya, or Tua with Jalen Waddle. Yes, and this is a good one here. Flacco is not going to be receiving points because that trade happened after the slate was released. And you can see the out tag here as well. So do not click Joe Flacco this week. Hopefully we can get JSN here at 5 because I do think Darnold with JSN is kind of like the, the spiritual successor of the Igbukah with Baker or the Amon-Ra with Jared Goff, where it's like you're kind of drafting these wide receivers in the first round because the floor is so good, right? We just know JSN is like a lock for 7 to 8 catches, 75 yards. But if he hits his ceiling and he's scoring 2 touchdowns, like Amon-Ra did that week, the quarterback is going to also wildly outperform their expectations as well. So this works out perfect. We get JSN here. So to fulfill this prompt of early wide receiver stacked with low-owned quarterback, I'm going to go ahead and put Sam Darnold in the queue here. And then we can play this one relatively straight otherwise. I'll take Javonte Williams on this one. I passed on him for Genty the first go around. Crutches takes Puka 101, which that's kind of where my head is at as well. I don't necessarily want to have a full fade on Jonathan Taylor in CMC, but I would prefer to be heavy on Puka this week. I think the only tricky thing to me is just like the high-end running backs are more scarce. The wide receiver scrolls I seem to like a little bit more than the running back scrolls. So that's another kind of like thing you have to think through, because when you open up at the 2-3 turn, you see this, there's like no running backs. So you burn your wide receiver spots early, which again, I don't think is bad. I think Puka pure value deserves to be the 101, but that's an interesting thing to kind of think through here. I think the one, JT has that nuclear ceiling. We've seen it multiple times this week. Nothing scary about the matchup. CMC is kind of the tough one where it almost does feel like the floor is the selling point more than the ceiling. And maybe I'm thinking through that in a wrong way, but man, Puka, best player in fantasy right now, getting the best possible matchup against the Ravens. It's the stuff Battle Royale dreams are made of. All right, let's do, I had said, let's give ourselves both options here in case any funny business goes down and any of these jokesters want to take Sam Darnold from me. I'll grab Sam Darnold here. So this is kind of like in the last one we had Trey McBride. In this one, we'll do Tucker Kraft. I think Tucker Kraft of just a really strong tight end selection. I am kind of viewing the Packers this week kind of similar to how I viewed the Lions last week. I mean, very similar spot. Going against the Bengals, 30-point team total. You don't want to ever be as rigid as saying one Packer in every draft, but between Josh Jacobs, naked Jordan Love, Tucker Craft, and then one of either Dobbs or Golden, man, I like having one of those guys on my team because we know the points are going to be scored. And really the only way it goes completely south is if they get, 2 defensive scoring touchdowns and the touchdowns are spread out, then yeah, maybe. But man, it's hard to pass on the Packers at ADP. So we know we're going to take Darnold or Bryce with which one do you guys like better? I mean, Darnold has obviously been playing way better on the road at Jacksonville. Jacksonville's been easier to run on than throw on. Bryce Young at home versus Dallas, he's just looked so bad, but I do think these two are certainly the plays. Let's do this. We could play that as a mini stack. I don't really want to do Henry. I don't want to do 3 Seahawks. You know what, guys? I think I'm going to go Bryce Young here because I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a mini correlation with Travis Etienne and JSN, and then I'm going to play Bryce to Ted Arroyo. So we're going to still complete this prompt, even though, as Big Dan says, that's the one, Bryce. I don't know if that's sarcasm or if you also are enthusiastic for this. But again, I think it's just a good thought exercise of like, we're taking these wide receivers in every draft. We need them to smash, to be in the optimal lineup. We need the 100 yards. We need the touchdown. And yes, can they get there without their quarterback getting there? Absolutely. But in the super high-end outcomes, I do think the quarterback is putting up really good scores. Even a couple of weeks with Stafford, we saw that as well, right? When Stafford scored, what was it? Was it 27 fantasy points? Yeah, 2 weeks ago against Indianapolis, Adams and Puka getting selected a lot, and Stafford wasn't. So I do think this is kind of like an interesting meta to exploit. If you're taking these guys highly and they're selected in every draft, be willing to sprinkle in their low-owned quarterback a little bit. All right, let's get another one. These are fun. Okay, this time we're flipping the script on the naked quarterback. This time we're going to do a naked quarterback with a bring back. So this is an homage to the Jalen Hurts, Devontae Adams from, what was it, week 3 there. So we can kind of think through what would be a good pairing here. So looking at some of these naked quarterback, let's see, Rico and Dak or Ted Arroyo and Dak. You could do a CMC and Baker. You could do an Achane and Waddle or Herbert. Don't really want to do naked Stafford. I'm going to throw that one out. New Orleans, I guess I could do Olave and Drake May. Can do Chase and Jordan Love. You could do Trey McBride and Daniel Jones. I actually don't mind that one. Naked Sam Darnold on the road. Don't know about that. I think you could do like JSN, Trevor Lawrence maybe. But again, that doesn't feel great either. I think my favorite one that we talked through would be Daniel Jones with McBride. Olave with Drake May. So we have the 1-6, so we're not going to do the CMC one here. I think I still like the, I know Daniel Jones has just like not really found that ceiling since the first couple of weeks, but I do think when the touchdowns swing back his way, I think he has another big game in him. So I like kind of buying the dip. But we'll see what we get cooked up here. We have picks 18 and 19, which is right around the tight end range. There's definitely some interesting injuries to keep tabs on this week. The Alvin Kamara stuff is interesting. I mean, Kendre Miller would be a really fun scroll and probably the best candidate for this week's Rico if Kamara were to miss. Also makes the tight end stuff more interesting. Chris Godwin, he's was a DNP I believe, yesterday with a fibula. So I don't know what's going on there. But our build here is going to be a naked quarterback with a bring back. All right, we will take Achane here. Let's do Achane and Igbuka. We have not selected Igbuka yet. All right, we got a redraft question here. Always hard for me to start thinking about these players who aren't on the main slate. Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, or Sutton half-point PPR. I mean, I'm definitely throwing out Sutton there. It's between Breece Hall and Etienne. My gut says Breece Hall, but let's check out our rankings and see what our professional rankers are saying here for week 6. Let's look at running back here. See where we have Breece Hall. Breece Hall, we have pretty strong. Consensus RB12. So that's going to be your guy. Ian's a little lower on him versus Denver at the running back 16, but all of our other rankers have him at running back 12. I do like Etienne. I like this. I like how well he's playing. It's close, right? We have him consensus RB16, but I would definitely go Breece Hall there over Etienne. There are a ton of shows on the Fantasy Life channel throughout the week. I actually just got done listening to Dwayne and Ian go through their utilization show. Really great show there from Dwayne and Ian. Some good debates on that one, too. They were on different sides of Mason Taylor, rest of season expectations, and they were on different sides of Chris Olave debates. Dwayne high on both Chris Olave regression and Mason Taylor continuing to see his role expand. Ian taking the other side of it. Some smart conversations there. Highly recommend that one on the Fantasy Life channel. All right, so Trey McBride went to Jay Dennis 22, who won week 4 Battle Royale. So I will have to figure out a different quarterback with the bring back. Maybe we can do the Herbert thing. I don't mind the Herbert thought. We were kind of talking it through. The offensive line stuff is not ideal. Let's on this one, since we've been doing kind of Drake May unstacked, let's do Diggs here. And then to complete our prompt, we'll do the Herbert. We'll do Herbert naked opposite Achane. And I do like those when you're doing the naked quarterback, opposite the running back, playing it as Miami having success on the ground and the Chargers having to catch up here. See if we can get Herbert spreading the ball around a bit. So we've accomplished our prompt, naked quarterback with a bring back. So I won't be selecting any Chargers pass catchers. I'll probably be looking for another running back and a tight end here. If you guys want to see me draft more Battle Royale teams, I have the Battle Royale Bash show that I do on my YouTube channel, the Peter Overzet YouTube channel. That is at 3 p.m. Eastern. And it's a fun concept. If you're a YouTube member on my channel, you have access to the chat. I have a hashtag. And before every draft, I spin a wheel. If your name comes up, I send you the link to the stream. And you get to pop on and draft a team with me. And if it does well, I think I cut it off at like top 200. If it finishes top 200, I'll send you half of the winnings. The draft is on me. All right, let's see here. Last draft we did ETN. The other kind of scroll running back I've been liking here is Kenneth Walker. I've been liking him a good bit. Judkins is the faller here. I don't mind Judkins, but I kind of want to get maybe some unique pieces. Let's do Kenneth Walker, and then we'll need to figure out our tight end. I like Njoku this week. Njoku at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's been a little bit vulnerable to tight ends here. Let's do Njoku. So here we go. This is a very lightly correlated lineup in that it just has the Herbert to Achane correlation. Has 2 kind of scrolls. Kenneth Walker and Njoku should be fairly unique. And then 2 kind of 100% drafted wide receivers, Emeka Egbuka and Diggs. Steve suggested Dak and Tet. I do like that one. I didn't have access to that in this draft because Dak went here at pick 14. But had Dak come all the way back, I think Dak and Ted Arroyo here at the 3-4 turn would have been a very nice naked quarterback with a bring back. What's up, draft board? What is up, Steven? What's up, Jay Fresh? How we doing, guys? If you're just tuning in, we're drafting Battle Royale teams. I have the randomizer wheel with some prompts. All of the prompts are informed by different things winning teams have done so far in 2025. And so we're pulling various elements out of there and attempting them in our week 6 draft. So let's see what we got next here. I will hop in another draft and then we will reveal which prompt has shown up. Mini correlation. So this one's pretty straightforward. Just any pairing of a running back, wide receiver, or tight end on opposite sides of a game. So lots of different ways to go with this one here. Later today, I will be kind of digging in and doing my final research for my favorite scroll down plays. I share these for YouTube members on my channel or for people who have taken the Underdog Masterclass. If you guys are new to this kind of world of DFS and drafting on Underdog this offseason with the Badge Bros, John and Nez. Nez was just in that draft we just did. We put together a masterclass here to basically catch you fully up to speed, give you everything you need to know on how to be successful in these drafts. And you can check that out at underdogmasterclass.com. And you also get access to my weekly scroll down gems. And I'm typically looking for players who are drafted in less than 30% of drafts for that. We got the 1-3 here. Got to keep reminding myself the prompt. It's the mini correlation prompt. We haven't selected Jonathan Taylor yet. Let's do that. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor, Trey McBride would certainly qualify as a mini correlation. Nez says legit want to spin a wheel for my own drafts now. I'm telling you, man, like I really like it. I forget where else had I been doing that. I forget what I had done it for. But yeah, it just like it pushes you into builds that you don't do when you're on autopilot. And you can put a ton of things on there. Like you could even just put like a random scroll down where it's like, remind myself to take Hassan Haskins on a draft. You know, you could grab the wheel, put 20 fun things on there that you want to do in drafts that you might otherwise forget. That's what I've always said to people where it's like, it feels like it can be like gimmicky or whatever. But I do think it's actually a valuable exercise if you're drafting a lot of teams and want to have some uniqueness in your portfolio. We have not selected George Pickens yet. I'm just getting a little variety here. Let's go ahead and do Jonathan Taylor and George Pickens. Kyle says, I just traded Quentin Johnston for Kenneth Walker, and I traded Jacoby Myers for Calvin Ridley. Jacoby for Calvin Ridley feels like shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic. QJ for Kenneth Walker, that one's pretty close. I mean, QJ's been playing so well this year. The Seahawks are so stubborn with their Zach Charbonnet usage that it's a little tough for season long, knowing when to start Kenneth Walker, but I don't blame you for that one. Both QJ and Kenneth Walker kind of, you know, big play merchants there that can single-handedly win you your week. I don't mind those trades. Rob says, I've been spinning for QB and drafting based off that, but I'm definitely going to try this out. Look at this, the randomizer wheel, starting a revolution. One thing I do, and I talk about this in the masterclass, is I will randomize like a cohort of players. Like say I have 4 scroll down guys I like. ETN, let's say Kenneth Walker, Jaylen Warren, and Hassan Haskins. Say those are the 4 I want. I'll put those 4 together, and because I don't feel strongly about which one, I'll just let the randomization gods do that one. Here we go. How about this for our mini correlation? We could do Trey McBride, but let's do the Ted Arroyo and George Pickens. I feel like this is a fun one. 2 guys in a game that's going to be pace up. We won't play the quarterbacks in these situations. We'll just play it as a Pickens alpha game and a Ted Arroyo alpha game. And that'll be our mini correlation. And then we'll probably end up with a naked quarterback, or we could do a quarterback and tight end stack here. Paul says, I've been doing the wheel with Sproles builds and Davis's Skelly keys. There you go. Mix and match, baby. How about this? I mean, if Trey McBride doesn't go, we could get the rare double mini correlation here. This is funny because it's going to be tough to pass on Dak if Dak falls here. So Dak does fall. Man. So if I do Dak, that's technically not a mini correlation. So then I would need Trey McBride to fall, or I would need to set up a different mini correlation. That really puts me in a tough spot. Let's do this. We'll figure it out. We're going to do Dak. So we're going to have the Dak to Pickens and Tedoroya. But because I want to be honest to this prompt, the running back and tight end I select here will be a mini correlation. Let's see. You could do something like Jalen Warren Njoku. That's kind of one that I think could work. The dream is Trey McBride comes back. And Ash isn't going to do it. So let's just see if WNC has a Trey McBride bias. Okay, he takes Trey McBride. I think the best one I could do here, that's a lodge. Or we could do Rachaad White and Tungus. How do we feel about that? Should we try that? Let's do that. We'll do Rachaad White and Tungus here at tight end. I have not taken Jake Tungus, but he's coming off of back-to-back games with touchdowns. Dude has a real role. 11 targets last week against the Rams. This is I was talking about my portfolio review this week on my show, and also kind of at the top of this show that I'd been getting a little sloppy in my drafts. This is definitely one of the reasons I do love doing one draft at a time. You know, from a efficiency perspective, like it's just not possible to do 150 drafts one at a time. But you can really think through angles a lot differently when you're not pressed for time. And I do appreciate that. This is a really good note, Rob. The thing is, so here's the thing, Rob, you are very correct. I like that angle there. I did promise the mini correlation, and I'm such a slave to my prompts that I want to make sure I get it. But I do think it's an interesting thing. And Kittle actually is he has the out tag here, which is kind of interesting. But yes, so conceptually what Rob's talking about is a very good thing. And I've honestly been thinking about it with just like a little bit of nervousness with Rico. Like on the chance that Chuba does play, the Rico click feels really gross. So I'm going to try to save most of my Rico clicks for later. But the reason that you wouldn't do it is if you did have correlation you were trying to get in. And say I was doing George Kittle here, to get Jake Tungus on this team, I would have to put Jake Tungus up as my priority swap on all of my BR teams where I'm taking these other tight ends, right? So if I take some Brock Bowers, if I take, Ferguson has this weird Q tag this week that is undisclosed, and I still actually don't know what's going on with it. But the point I'm making is if I do have swaps, I don't want them all 100% to be going to Jake Tungus. So that's the only risk with a move like that. But I think it's a really good call out, and something I wrote about this week with CeeDee Lamb as well, where CeeDee Lamb, it's a little easier to do at non-onesie positions, I think, just because you have some more options for swaps. If it's a 3 wide receiver build, you can go to a running back or wide receiver, etc. But yeah, here's this team. Dak Prescott, Jonathan Taylor, Rachaad White, George Pickens, Tedoroya, McMillan, Jake Tungus. So this team is definitely a little more correlated than I normally do, just because I got the Dak stack with the bring back. But then getting the Tungus as kind of the scroll here, I think works out well. Yeah, Judkins DK would have been good. Unfortunately, I had already used up my flex spot And I needed it to be, or wait, had I? I guess you're right. Could I have gone Judkins? You're right. Judkins. No, because I needed if I go Judkins, then I only have tight end left. So I didn't have the roster flexibility to do that. I was already capped because if I go Judkins, then I'm at 2 running backs. Pat says I make a ton of mistakes if I try to multi-table. That is really the thing you're trying to like triangulate is what do you care about more, volume or quality? Because the more drafts I add, like it is a direct sliding scale of the quality of my teams goes down the more I try to multi-table. All right, let's keep these rolling here. I have a few more prompts on the wheel. We'll get a low-owned tight end. We just did this one technically with Jake Tungus, but we'll do another low-owned tight end, sub 25%. This is an homage to the Hunter Henry scroll, which was just such an elite scroll in week 4 there for the Battle Royale champ. Let's go look at, as I hop in this draft, let's go look at our rankings and our projections to see some of these tight ends that could fit the bill as good scrolls this week. Let's look at FanDuel scoring for us here, which is the same as Underdog. No surprises here at the top. Ferguson, Kraft, Warren, McBride, Waller, Henry. All of those guys aren't going to be sub 30%. The first ones that qualify here, Juwan Johnson. The Taysom Hill stuff coming back was not ideal just because you worry about the touchdown expectation a little bit. But I think he qualifies. Njoku is one of my favorites here. Interesting. We have Michael Mayer 10th. I know we're probably not going to get Brock Bowers. Mayer didn't play last week either. Do we have any news on Mayer? That would be a sneaky one if Brock was not back, but Mayer was. Okay, full practice yesterday. That's one we should flag away right there, folks. Another one where you want to be a little careful, where if Brock were somehow to miraculously play, then that is like a 0, and you just torched that entry. But I do think the Mayer projection is interesting. Mark Andrews is a tough one too. I don't mind the spot them in a trailing game script versus the Rams, but it really seems like he's on the outs there. Barner, I guess, has to be in play. He's coming off of a monster week. So there's a few options here. Johnson looks like he'd be the best one. Ashton says, when you have a strong top 3 like this week, do you take stands on, say, Puka or JT, or do you just play the ADP? That's a really good comment. And one I was kind of talking through when Crutches in that one draft took Puka 101. A lot of weeks for me, it is I'd rather be pretty balanced. However, this week, let's just say like I was able to get the exact expectation for the top 3, which would be like 16% of each. I think in my perfect world this week, I'd be like over 20% on Puka and then be at, so what, I'm pulling 2% away from both of those. So I'd be like 16% Puka, 14% Taylor, 14% CMC. I think that's kind of where I would like to be this week. So nothing drastic, but tilting my exposures to Puka. So yeah, I think you want to be humble with these players that are all in contention to be the number 1 overall player on the slate, which CMC, JT, and Puka all are. But I won't begrudge anyone for taking stands or leaning in one direction or another. And there we go. We see Puka go first again. I have not checked. I believe ETR ranks came out a bit ago. Patrick Barnes YouTube does work over there. My guess is ETR has Puka 101 in their ranks. Let's grab CMC here. But yeah, I think in general, I want to play it based on ADP for the most part. And this week, if I have to say, like, to me, the tier of top plays is really kind of only 6 deep. Like, I like Javonte, but I don't know if Javonte like fully separates from like a Genti or Kyron. To me this week, I kind of just want to be even round 1. Puka, CMC, Jonathan Taylor, Jacobs, JSN, Achane. Like, for me, that's a tier break. And I'll just kind of play most of those spots by ADP other than a light tilt to Puka. One thing I'm always looking for, with these first rounders is, can I get a unique combo? Like obviously an Achane falling would be awesome. I actually got an Achane CMC earlier this morning, ran to the podium to get that, not only because you're getting 2 elite players, but because it's going to be really low owned from a combinatorial perspective there. We'll see what Eggers does here. We haven't selected Kyron on the stream yet. If Genty goes, I'll go with Kyron. Oh, Genty goes. Yeah, Genty goes. So let's do Kyron here. Again, love this spot for the Rams. Primarily want to play it through Puka and Adams and Stafford. But there are certainly scenarios where Kyron has success on the ground. We just saw Nick Chubb have a decent game against this team. So we are done at quarterback. We know we're going to take a scroll tight end here. We could potentially get a Jamar Chase share here if we'd like. I don't mind the teammate pairing either, the Adams and Kyron. You're kind of saying, I don't know, Kyron has 100 yards and a tutty. Devontae Adams has 100 yards and a tutty. Let's do a Jamar Chase share. Obviously not my favorite click here on the road at Green Bay, but always has the potential to break it open. So we go CMC, Kyron, Jamar Chase. Got to figure out who our scroll tight end is going to be. We just did a Tungus, Njoku, Barner, Andrews. Juwan Johnson really down here, huh? Man. Yeah, his targets went from 11, 9, and 8 down to 3 and 4. One other fun thing to look at is I like looking at our DVP tool just to see some spots here of teams that are giving up big boosts to opposing tight end. You can sort it a bunch of different ways. I like just looking at overall fantasy boost. So Panthers, Jake Ferguson, as if you needed another reason to play Jake Ferguson. Bengals against Tucker Kraft, as if you needed another reason for that. Bucks against Tungus. That's nice. Seahawks against, I don't even know who the fuck. So apologies to the kids here dropping F-bombs on the Fantasy Life YouTube channel. I don't even know who the tight end is behind Strange right now. Maybe you guys can enlighten me there. Vikings, Jets not on the main slate. Commanders not on the main slate. Patriots opposite New Orleans. So I think I'm kind of triangulating this Juwan Johnson stuff, swinging back to him, although he was limited again. That's not great. That's not great. I feel like Jordan Love and the Cincy, Jordan Love opposite Chase is kind of a fun correlation. Could certainly see games where Chase smashes, Jordan Love spreading it around. Hunter Long and my son is crying. Yes. Hunter Long. There you go. All right, we haven't done Waddle yet. Certainly a strong play. Let's do Waddle. We'll do Waddle, Jordan Love, and then we'll figure out which one of these tight ends qualify here. Njoku at tight end 7, his ownership is going to be very close to this arbitrary threshold. I made 25%. He's probably 30 to 40% would be my guess. Let's do Love here. I'm going to get rid of Njoku. We already did Njoku, even though I like that one. Honestly, the Mark Andrews. Who should it be? I'll let you guys vote. Who should be my low-owned tight end here? It can't be Waller, can't be Henry, can't be Njoku. I don't really want to do Tungus on a CMC team, so I'll let you guys decide between AJ Barner, Mark Andrews, Taysom Hill, or Jawan Johnson. Maybe Taysom Hill's just the answer. Second game back. Alvin Kamara, day-to-day with an ankle. Jawan Johnson, limited. Barner or Hill. There's two Barners. Steve likes Fannin. We got 2 votes for Barner. Barner's winning out right now. If there's any other votes, let me know. I like the Barner call. I mean, the field, myself is included, is always kind of like skeptical by these guys who pop up for big games, being like, there's no way they do it again. But like the usage in his role in the red zone is so good. Looks like we have a consistent or a consensus on AJ Barner. I do think, though, like the more I talk it through too, I think Taysom is a really strong selection with Jawan and Kamara banged up. But yeah, let's do Barner on this team. All right. I think we got time for one more here. Let's spin the wheel. How about this? For this final one, we'll spin the wheel twice. We'll do 2 of these on the same team. All right, so we got a low-owned running back, sub 50%. This is a homage to the Ashton Genty week 4 where he was sub 50% and win nuts. And then let's get the other one in here. So I would say the running backs who will be sub 50%, it's normally around an ADP of 30. It's probably right after Derrick Henry. Yep, Derrick Henry will be the break. Derrick Henry will probably be over 50. So yeah, I'd say ETN or lower, one of these running backs. And then our other one is a secondary teammate stack. So running back, wide receiver, running back, tight end. Last week, we, of course, had Jake Ferguson and Javonte Williams in the same winning lineup. So we can try to figure out a good teammate stack. I do think the things you're looking for, if you do running back, wide receiver, you need 2 things. You need a really condensed offense and a strong like team total or game environment. Like maybe like an Igbuka Rashad White, I think could qualify. But ideally, I'd like it to be a running back tight end. Like I think Josh Jacobs, we have the 4 here. So we could get Josh Jacobs. Like a Jacobs Tucker Kraft, I think is a really strong one this week with that team total. Achan Waller is also a good one. But yeah, let's grab Jacobs here. And we'll give ourselves a few different outs for this. Now, the one thing we have to remember, our other prompt is sub 50% running back. So just so I don't forget, I'm going to put these sub 50 guys in the Michael Carter's kind of interesting this week. Wasn't in the player pool last week. Not getting a ton of pub. I mean, the downside with Michael Carter is they're big road underdogs, and you worry about Amari DiMarcado being out there a decent bit, etc. But he's in the conversation this week. So I'm not going to do any other running backs. I'm now looking for pairings here. Let's go ahead and grab Pickens, because then Pickens and Ferguson, I think, although I don't like doing the teammate pairings, that's 2 without the quarterback. So I'm gonna say not that one. Although, yeah. So I'll have to keep myself some extra outs here in case I'm not able to get Tucker Kraft. What's up, Banking? In case you guys missed it, make sure you check out my article up on Fantasy Life, Week 6 Underdog Battle Royale DFS picks. Stack the pack and don't look back. I did not come up with that title, but that is very clever from whoever did. I'm guessing my guy Joe Metz. Shout out Joe and the editorial team over at Fantasy Life. I think because this part of the board is pretty flat and we're scrolling for running back, I'm just not going to mess around. I'm just going to grab my Tucker Craft here. So we're going to get our pairing of running back, tight end. This is going to be this week's Javonte Williams and Jake Ferguson is Josh Jacobs and Tucker Craft. So now we just need a quarterback and one wide receiver, and then we're going to get a scroll running back here. All right, let's see. What kind of, probably looking at maybe a naked quarterback situation again. I do love the Drake May naked quarterbacks. Then we can get another fun wide receiver pick in here. How are we feeling about Brian Thomas heading into this week, guys? Is it Jover, or are we taking the long view? I think I have an idea of how I want to land this plane. All right, let's do Drake May. We know we're going to do one of these running backs. Banking likes Baker. Yeah. Baker's the man. Did you see the stuff where, there was that clip that was going viral of him talking smack to the Seahawks fan? And he was talking about how at one point in his career, if he had done that, they would have been like, oh, this guy's a poor sport. This guy needs to be more professional. This is unbecoming. But then, like, at this stage of his career where he's more of a fan favorite and more established, then everyone's like, yeah, that's awesome. He's a dog. It is just funny how some of that stuff gets filtered through the media lens on whether we approve of that behavior or not. All right, this was the little, let's see, which wide receiver should we do here? I'm going to grab my my running back here first. I do like Kenneth Walker a lot this week. You can run on the Jags more than you can throw on them. What do we think about a little Kenneth Walker, Brian Thomas mini correlation? Two guys who will be, sub 50% drafted, two big play guys that can speed up the game. They're definitely volatile. There's a reason they're going after pick 33 or whatever. Oh, and Brian Thomas goes. So that dream has died. Let's do, have I done a DK Metcalf yet? DK Metcalf, a decent one here. We're not going to do Chargers wide receivers. We've already done our Green Bay stuff. Pittman, I think, would be fine too. But we kind of did our scroll here with Walker. Let's go ahead and we'll grab DK Metcalf here. So here's our final squad today. That we had two goals with this one. A teammate correlation. So we did Josh Jacobs and Tucker Craft. And then we did a running back sub 50%. Kenneth Walker will definitely have sub 50% draft rate here. So the final team, Drake May, Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, George Pickens, DK Metcalf, Tucker Craft. Pat says DK Metcalf's TD pick'em surprised me. Let me see what it is. Now I'm intrigued. He was more likely to score than some guys getting drafted in the second round. Yeah, 1.12x there. 1.12x. Not bad. Should we build a pick'em? Should we build to wrap up here a fantasy life pick'em with maybe some of our favorite clicks during this stream? I feel like we were drafting a decent amount of Drake May. I like when they get the fantasy points up for Drake May, because that's definitely the preferred way to play it. But let's do I like, Pat got us over here talking Metcalf. He scored a touchdown in 3 straight games. Yeah, let's play a Metcalf tutty. Let's do wow, see, Kenneth Walker's only a 1.05x. Kenneth Walker's a late round pick and has a plus expectation to score a touchdown here. Kenneth Walker and Ted Arroyo scoring a touchdown this week, right? Like we're booking that. All right, here it is. Here's a little pick 'em. Make sure you guys take advantage of the boosts. Get my 30% Boostober applied here. Get this up to 10.24x. We're going to play this Metcalf, Kenneth Walker, Ted Arroyo all scoring a touchdown this week. If you guys want to tail me, I'll drop this in the chat and post it in the comments later. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out here for the DFS Jam on the Fantasy Life YouTube channel. Like I said, make sure you guys check out my full column breaking down the slate on Underdog up now. And make sure you guys are subscribed to the newsletter. I think it was last week. Someone was in the chat, hanging out in the chat, and did not know or was not subscribed to the free Fantasy Life newsletter that is in your inbox every single day. I should also mention there is a free way to get Fantasy Life Plus. So this is the entire utilization suite, league sync, all of that good stuff. Let me see if I can pull up the exact way to get it here. Yes, I had this bookmark. I'm going to drop this in the chat. So if you guys want this, all you have to do is download the Comet browser. It sounds like it's too good to be true. I promise it isn't. So this is what you do. You create your Fantasy Life account. So you guys should already have that. You download Comet, this browser from Perplexity, and then you redeem your $0 subscription on Comet. So all the instructions and the step-by-step flow is available here. I just dropped it in the chat. You get the whole Fantasy Life for an entire year, all the stuff for free. So really strong offer. Take advantage of that. You don't even have to use the browser. Just download it. Take advantage of this offer from Perplexity and get free Fantasy Life Plus for an entire year. All right, that's it for me, guys. You can catch me on my other streams here over on my YouTube channel, including full DFS breakdowns on the salary cap side tomorrow, and then off and on the clock with John and Nez giving our final thoughts on this Underdog slate. I'm Pete Overzet. We'll see you guys next time on the Jam.